Linus Tech Tips has been coming under heavy criticism as of late for the amount of errors that have been showing up in their videos. Now, if it was just errors that are popping up, and even if it was a lot of them, I actually wouldn't be making this video here today. It's more so the arguments that Linus Tech Tips raises after these errors have made, and also the behavior that, as Gamers Nexus pointed out in two of their videos, is very concerning, not just for the biggest tech channel on YouTube, but arguably the biggest tech channel in the world when it comes to focusing on parts that go in gaming PCs like GPUs and CPUs. So in today's video, I'm going to break down this whole situation with my thoughts and opinions, as well as add in, which we'll do straight away, my own encounters with Linus Tech Tips. Where over a year ago, I made a video in response to a video that Linus Tech Tips made about used CPUs. And in that video, they had grossly underestimated the performance of first generation Xeons. And my only conclusion from when I did the testing was that they just simply had this CPU running so poorly that it was giving out bad results. However, they went on and published the video, and not just that, when I pointed out these problems in an email to them, they then just basically went cold turkey after a few responses, said they were going to look into it, but the video is still left up on the channel, and in fact they've gone and changed the name on the video, and they haven't even taken out the bad results. They've just pretty much left these misleading results up on their channel, and that right there is my only interaction with Linus Tech Tips on a professional basis. When it comes to meeting them at events, we'll talk about that right after today's video sponsor.
Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor, SCD Keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon BFTYC. Links in description below.
Welcome back to Tech Yes City, and this whole situation began to unravel on Twitter, I believe, where Gamers Nexus and Hardware Unboxed got tagged in a tweet where there was video footage of one of Linus's employees saying that they were going to do things differently to benchmarking as opposed to Gamers Nexus and Hardware Unboxed, and give the public what, in their terms, I guess they were implying that they were going to be giving better data and better results. And I think this is coming across as an insult. And when you insult someone, even if it's an implied insult, they're not going to take that happily. They're going to respond and then do their response in a manner that could also be damaging for your brand. And in this case, I believe Gamers Nexus, who are renowned for doing their research, saw this clip and said, okay, well, let's take a look at how accurate your data is coming out of Linus Tech Tips. And so what they found was a huge amount of errors in the data that was just didn't make any sense if you just looked at it from their own results. You didn't even have to cross-reference with other people's results because their own results just weren't adding up. And so when you were getting these errors, you're then making recommendations that are essentially wrong and can be misleading, and people go out and buy the wrong product that they otherwise, if they had saw proper results, would have bought something else. However, mistakes, errors, we all make them as human beings, even if they're being made this much. It's how you deal with it that is the biggest concern. And this is where the reason for making this video mainly is the responses to these errors, where Linus responded to these issues directly, not just on his live stream called The WAN Show, but also on posts on Twitter and also on their forums, where some of the posts have since been taken down. And the arguments are very hypocritical when you break them down. And we'll get onto why that is after we look at the two main examples here. And the first being the Billet Labs, which is a startup company that was making a prototype. And this custom water cooling monoblock then got featured on Linus Tech Tips' channel. And it pretty much just got eldritch blasted by not just his employees, but Linus himself. And the problem here was that they did not test the product properly. The company said that it was designed with a CPU and an RTX 3090 Ti in mind. And later on in the discussion, you can see that the 4090, which is the product that Linus tested it with, actually has a height difference which can affect temperatures drastically. Even though it's 1 millimeter, if you guys have ever put memory pads on a GPU and they've been too thick, even by 1 millimeter, the GPU core temperatures will just get a lot hotter than they should. And so what we had here was poor testing done by Linus Tech Tips, which came to a conclusion that basically this product was crap and no one should buy it, even if it gets made into final release. However, in their own admittance on that video, they then said that they dropped the CPU temperatures down after a little bit more testing. And then after copying heavy criticism on even that video in the comments section, they then said on the live stream that they couldn't be bothered to spend another $100 or $200 or $500 on employees' time to test it out because the conclusion would have been the same regardless. However, the hypocrisy that we were talking about before really starts to unfold when we look at these responses, and especially when we look at the put food on the table argument, because this one for me hits really hard when someone says, like Linus is saying, well, we're going to basically make errors. They do happen, but we have to put food on the table for our employees. We have to provide, when you've just thrown a company under the bus, and not just one company. We'll get onto the second company soon, but they're throwing companies under the bus where those employees and those people at those companies also have to put food on the table. So at the end of the day, if you're making an unfair recommendation and telling people this product's bad because you haven't tested it properly, you got the potential to really damage a product's sales as well as the brand. And this is where we're now going to lead into the second example, which really concerned me. And this was on their short circuit unboxing channel, where they got in a mouse from a company called Pwnage, and they left the plastic seals on the feet of the mouse, and then concluded that nobody should buy the mouse because the friction was terrible. And so I do have to stop here and take this one in, because the behavior here was that they didn't test the mouse properly, but also there's numerous people working on projects at any given time at Linus Tech Tips. Does someone not just take a close look at the mouse and say, hey, the plastic feet are still on here? Or when you saw this news, why didn't you just take down the video altogether and just apologize and say, hey, guys, we actually made a big mistake here. We're taking this video down. We're not going to leave it up, because the video is still up to this date, much like the Xeon video and much like all the other videos that have all the mistakes in them. They're still up on their channel. Though it still gets worse. And Linus, on this particular issue, responded on their live stream saying that no, there was no problem. But then later on, they've now officially admitted in the video that the feet were covered in plastic, and so the whole video is null and void. Yet the video is still up on the channel. And so what concerns me here is that how do you get in a mouse and rush through it so quickly with multiple employees that one person doesn't take the time to just say, hey guys, there's still the seals on the feet of the mouse. Maybe we should take those off and rerun the video or redo the testing before we release this video. And not one person had the oversight to do that on not just the mouse video, but also the Billet Labs video, where Linus himself was in that video. So there's no more excuses on saying, hey, it was the employees, they made some mistakes, and we came up with a wrong recommendation. But the video is still up on the channel. Take the Pwnage mouse video down. Apologize to the company directly. Take the Billet Labs video down. Apologize to the company directly here. But we're going to get back onto the Billet Labs video, because it starts to unfold even more, the situation, where then LTT as a company, someone decided to auction off this prototype monoblock at their LTX convention. So they sold off something that they had only had for a month, and it was a prototype. And so there's just no excuse for this. I feel really sorry for Billet Labs that they had to go through this kind of ordeal when it comes to their product. And since then, though, I think they've had a lot of good exposure, and I think a lot of people have seen what's actually going on here and been sympathetic towards Billet Labs. However, there is still more to this situation, and that is this time around, we can see that during the video itself, Linus is noticing that there's already issues, water cooling fittings aren't tight enough, and it looks like he's a bit confused himself, but it's time to keep going on with the video. And so that is where I think if there's any feedback from me personally to Linus Tech Tips would be, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes and correcting them as you go along. For instance, if I was making that video, and even if I was strapped for sponsors and I had a busy schedule, which I kind of am now, I'm behind on my schedule, so I put a sponsor spot in this video, I would just cut that video short and I would say, sorry guys, we've got to do more testing on this. It looks like we don't have the proper setup. We have to install the fittings more. I have to educate some of these new guys on water cooling, especially custom water cooling, a little bit more, testing procedures, etc. And we're going to go back and do a part 2 on this Billet Labs water block. That would have been completely acceptable. I don't think anyone would have had a problem. I think it actually would have been positive for Linus Tech Tips to show humility. Everybody in this world makes mistakes. And in this case, that would be a good way to show people, hey, if you haven't done the testing properly, don't release the recommendation. But instead, they had to get the product finished, threw Billet Labs under the bus, and then they went and doubled down on all these excuses past that video, and then made an apology video after Gamers Nexus called them out and said that they were stopping making content for 7 days. Yet, what concerns me is that initially in the apology video, it seems like the mistakes that were previously made in these videos, where I'm more so concerned about, doesn't someone just watch this back after the whole video is complete and says, that's bad, that shouldn't be in there, or guys, maybe we should do this differently. The fact that there's that kind of oversight lacking at Linus Tech Tips really concerns me, because in that video there's an employee called Nick, and they just start shilling LTTstore.com, and they sort of shrug it off and laugh off the whole situation. And that right there is the problem, is not just the employee making these comments, but also isn't someone watching these videos back and saying, that's just terrible, take that out, cut it out. It not only looks bad, it is bad. And so after seeing that and then watching through that apology video, which started off with the CEO just reading from a script, it really didn't resonate with me at all. However, the only person in that video that I really thought was sincere was Luke. And this is going to go back to my personal experiences with Linus Tech Tips, where we'll conclude this video with what I've had in terms of professional experiences with Linus Tech Tips. And so now here's where we're going to go with the casual interactions I've had with Linus Tech Tips over the years, and they've been good or bad depending on who I've spoke with. For instance, I have run into Linus 2 times now, and the first was in 2016 at an event called PAX in America, in Seattle. And my experience there was really bad, where Linus just wouldn't talk to anyone. And unless, and this is what I was told, he wouldn't talk to anyone unless you had 1 million subscribers or more. And that left me scratching my head. But then I saw him at Computex in 2018. He was at a Corsair party, and me and also a few other people from media outlets, various media outlets, we went up to Linus Tech Tips and we just said, hey man, like, how are you? Maybe you just had a bad day at the PAX event, and love to have a quick chat. You're chatting with other people at this event. And he just brushed all of us off. He just said, like, who am I talking to? Who are these guys? Extremely arrogant. But then we went back to the table, and there was the newcomer in at this media outlet. There was a newcomer who came in, and he just said, oh, is that Linus Tech Tips? This was coming in after we had all went up to Linus. And we just said, yeah, dude, that's him. Like, go say hello. As a joke, we just said, go say hello to him. And here's where the newcomer went up and just said, hey, Linus, I'm your biggest fan. And we watched him get just shut down instantly. And we were like, wow, is that how you treat your fans when you're off camera or you're not in the public eye? Like, I just thought it was really disgusting. If you don't have time, just say, hey, sorry, I don't have time at the moment. I'm extremely busy. Instead, all that we got, people with under 1 million subs at the event, was, who are these people? Why are they here? And it's like, well, dude, it's a Corsair party where all tech media outlets been invited to mingle. And so you guys have asked me in the past why I don't go to LTX and why I wasn't going this year. And the reason for that is if I meet them in person and they're just what I would consider lacking basic mannerisms, it just doesn't sit well with me. I wasn't raised that way at all. And I wouldn't treat someone like that in person at all. I think it's bizarre. However, on the other hand, when it comes to Luke, I've had the opposite experience. And he's been extremely nice to not just me, but everyone else at events. Everyone I talk to says, yeah, Luke's amazing. And I'm like, well, this relates to the experience I had with Luke as well. One time I bumped into him on a train and we were just chatting about World of Warcraft, some of the old school PC games and life in general. And it was just really cool to know that people that you watch on a YouTube channel are really just down-to-earth people in real life. So anyhow, with all that out of the way, looking at all these errors and problems, I would say they are much deeper than a professional, we made an error, we're sorry we made a mistake. There's a lot of other things going on at Linus Tech Tips that I would have no idea about because I'm in Japan and before that in Australia, they're in Canada. But there is an ex-employee recently who came out on Twitter and made a very scathing review of their time at LTT. And reading some of these accusations, it made me sort of really, I was blown back in my chair thinking, what is going on here? Because I actually always wondered what happened to Madison at Linus Tech Tips. It was very weird how she was on the videos and then she's just gone, just vanished. And so there's the explanation. It came out now on Twitter when I guess all this other information is coming to light. And in ways, it's good that people know the truth about everything that's happening with this company and this brand before they wish to watch the videos and ultimately support the channel. So I think if you're supporting someone, especially in tough economic conditions, you're doing so knowing that, hey, they're doing their best. Because I know a lot of people out there at the moment that actually, Linus, are struggling to put food on the table and they're not making errors or mistakes in their jobs. So that's the issue here. I think it boils down to is this company is conducting themselves in a way that's very blasé, and the excuses that they're running out are pretty much going back to that argument of fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And so people aren't being fooled anymore by the whole put the food on the table argument, which Linus is just casually putting out, foods on the tables. And so people are not being fooled by these excuses this time around, the same excuses that were used when Linus made mistakes in the past. Anyhow, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, but it's not really a topic that you would enjoy, I guess. I hope you guys have found this video enlightening or easy to break down and easy to digest. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button for us, and also let us know in the comments section below what you think about this whole situation. Have you had any personal experiences as a fan of Linus Tech Tips? And would love to read those in the comment section below too. And with that aside, we got the question of the day here, which comes from Old Dad Gamer. And they say, yo, Brian, how you been? Where you been? We missed the videos, champ. Hope you're all good and back in a scrappy. And so this one might be a little bit embarrassing, but I'm just going to say it, man. Like, there's no point. There's no beating around the bush because I've pushed back sponsors and I've really just pushed back a lot to play Baldur's Gate 3. And for me, it was a game. So I've been in a hiatus just because I started playing Baldur's Gate 3. They had the Paladin class, and Larian Studios had just done such a good job on this game. It reminded me of Baldur's Gate 2 and the whole experience I had in Baldur's Gate 2, where it just set the neural network on fire, and it's just pinging in all different directions, figuring out what the best multi-class is, what's going to be the best damage, and figuring out certain effects and combos for winning battles. This thing has it all in terms of game mechanics, in terms of planning out battles. And it's not only that, they've added in, like from when I played Baldur's Gate 2, you've just got more dynamics with things like jumping and flying and other mechanics that really make its way into the game, that makes it so thoroughly enjoyable. I've actually played through it twice now on Paladin, where I've eventually come up with a Paladin level 7 Oathbreaker and a level 5 Warlock. I think that's probably the most powerful combination in the game. I don't know, but that's sort of my conclusion after just playing and messing around with different items and things like that. But really enjoyed this game. It's so enjoyable. The story, I think, is the icing on the cake, as opposed to the well planned out game mechanics, the battles themselves, the character placement, the surprise situations, the character customization, and all that good jazz. I really enjoyed it. It took me away from life. It sucked me in a vacuum, in a black hole, where I just had to get that final answer of what was the best combo, what was the best items all together, where it was just so much fun. I haven't enjoyed PC gaming like that in over a decade, which games like Baldur's Gate 2 were the games that got me into PC gaming. And all this YouTube channel and everything you see was because of games like Baldur's Gate 2. So in ways, I'm paying my homage to the original formula, but in ways I'm also just enjoying myself with PC gaming. I mean, enjoyed myself, because I don't know when the next game that's like Baldur's Gate 3 is going to come out. But until then, I'm going to dedicate myself to getting out awesome tech videos for you guys. And I guess sometimes I need to take a hiatus when a game like BG3 comes out. And that's just, I think that's the truth, is just it's such a good game. It was such a good game. It fired my neural networks in ways that I had forgot. And just before that, Diablo 4 came out, but that didn't take me out as much as Baldur's Gate 3 did. So there's actually two excellent releases back to back, but ultimately I feel like BG3 did top D4, and it actually has topped games in the last decade for me personally. And I think in ways you've got to enjoy turn-based games. They're not for everyone, but this one delivers and then some. So if you've got experiences with BG3, do let us know in the comment section below. But yeah, enjoyed that one a lot. However, it wasn't just that too. There is summer holidays in Japan, and there's a thing called Matsuri, which is summer festival, and I had to help out family and friends with that quite a bit too. Anyhow, guys, I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. And if you stayed this far and you want to keep watching the content, be sure to hit that sub button, ring that bell. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out for now. Bye.